welcome to episode 9 of the Tharries Podcast. I'm joined by people who are sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. I'm not associated with them. NitPix.
Well,
you can call us Raid Boys.
RaidPix is our new name. Is what we're going as now. If you haven't heard of it, it's a deluxe superhero. I don't know.
Well, that's like completely
There's
wrong.
thousands of individual characters that you can unlock, mate.
Yeah, and so many bosses.
Real-time RPG mobile stuff.
Enter in code 2.
And go into the
As long as
realm.
you're wearing a Genie and the Boy white sweatshirt while you're doing it, that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
That's right. We get. Is this the podcast? You just bring people on and completely deconstruct them to the point where they feel really vulnerable.
Yeah, I didn't know Ferris would be such a such a roasting.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was a Doctor Who podcast, but it's the roast the NitPix boys.
All right.
podcast.
Okay. What else have you got prepared?
What about you, Tharries? I mean, geez, you're a bit of a dickhead as well.
God.
This is not how I wanted this to go at all.
You didn't think we'd turn against you in the first 3 minutes, did you?
Yeah. You got uncontrollable, abusive guests now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Now there's nothing but vitriol.
Normally
from
people
across
just accept the insults that I throw at them. I'm not used to rebuttals. It's,
Well, you're probably not used to this level of ego either.
That's right. Or delicate ego. Add that. Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing I wanted to ask you is more about your channel and stuff more than Doctor Who. Like, obviously we get on to Doctor Who later, but first of all, I just want to know, how did the channel sort of come about and evolve, if you like?
Well, I started the channel.
Sam started it on a cocksure whim.
Yeah,
is the best way to describe it. It's like Sam was in a phase near the end of uni, and I'd be getting calls from him just going, "Yeah, making a YouTube video," and I'm like, "Wow!" And he's like, "What are you doing that for?" I was like, "Well, because I think it will do well." And he was making that video because we weren't living together. You were at uni at the time. And then he was just making that video, and we were just talking about it.
And it did do well.
Yeah, and then he was right.
And then I was like, what am I doing for the second one? And then I just sort of wrote 4 different scripts out. I made a second video. It did all right. And then Max moved in, and we started watching all of Chibnall's Doctor Who episodes for fun, because it's just what we do.
The things we make videos about are usually like the viewing sessions that we do for fun, not always, but a lot of the time. And Chibnall was like that first case of us like holistically just like finding a video, because we do just get like weirdly curious about things, and we're always really interested in looking for creative patterns in anything that we watch or look at. Is always something that we're like super keen on trying to like discern. So we ended up watching all of Chibnall's Doctor Who videos before he did Whittaker's season, and we were just like, and they were bad, so we were like,
we had a lot of things to say.
And we had a lot of things to say.
The thing is, I don't mind the first Silurian 2-parter. I actually think that's a pretty decent episode.
I can understand why you would like it. I think it's just as in terms of a 2-parter, when you compare it to Doctor Who 2-parters sometimes get, the Silurian 2-parter is really like meh. It really like passes you by without being too like impactful or that interesting. It's the thing that we
because the Silurian companion, what's her name, the Victorian detective.
Oh, the Paternoster gang. I know you're on about.
Because whenever she turns up, there's always a bit of a.
Oh, Madame Vestra. I know. I was thinking.
There's
of the
always
name.
a bit of. I'm sure that she's got her fans, but like, there's a lot of. For me anyway, every time she's on screen, I'm like, ugh. And I think that is partly Chibnall's fault.
I mean, that makes sense. I mean, I do definitely think it's a really nice design for the Silurians. I think it was a really cool way to bring them back. And
I think that's the best part about that Silurian 2-parter is the design aspects, because I think it goes past the costumes as well. I also think the sets look quite nice in that kind of retro throwback kind of way. I do enjoy that
in the future as well.
Yeah, and they do have those like goofy looking like guns that look like mics and stuff. It's a bit throwbacky in that sense.
I just think the writing of the Doctor specifically is really poor in the 2-parter, because the Doctor doesn't. He's sort of a caricature. And it's sort of lacking a lot of the emotional beats that like a 2-parter Doctor story can have. and he's just constantly going around telling people not to kill this Silurian because it would be very
bad. I understand what you mean. To be fair, the first time I watched that story, it was on a DVD two disc. It had Amy's Choice and the Silurian 2-parter on it, and going from Amy's Choice to that Silurian 2-parter, there was definitely a drop.
Yeah, because Amy's Choice is a really interesting example of good Doctor Who writing.
One of my favorites. Yeah.
Amy's Choice is fun, but I think as well, Doctor Who is also about where and how you watch an episode. I think people always, I think everyone has a weird episode that they oddly like.
Yeah. Because
I weirdly I'm quite fond of Love and Monsters personally, and I always find myself enjoying that episode whenever it's put on. You're defensive of one that I always hate. Oh yeah, the Christmas special. You're weirdly Tennant's first episode.
Oh, I like the Christmas Invasion. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about that. Yeah.
So it sounds oddly defensive of Christmas Invasion, but I think that's to do with where we were when we saw those episodes, maybe. Yeah,
because for me it was a big event.
For me, I think it's probably then Rise of Cybermen and Age of Steel, that 2-parter, because apparently a lot of people don't like that one.
And I can see.
Were we watching the same thing? Because as far as I was concerned, that was a great way of reintroducing the Cybermen into the modern era with their headphones and stuff. I just thought they used some like very clever allegories for like modern uses of tech and stuff. Yeah. Personally, anyway, I know that a lot of people thought that the different origin of the Cybermen was a bit, but I actually quite liked it.
You know, I think there's a lot in that two-parter that Russell T puts in that when we rewatched it, we were really happy with. There's a lot in like terms of personalizing the Cybermen and that idea of the Cybermen's humanity. That scene where the Cybermen's like crying about her husband is actually quite good. Yeah, it's well done.
He mustn't see me
in my dress. He mustn't see me in my dress. So it does have lots of good moments.
Well. But even though it's funny upon reflection, it actually did work to kind of be funny and sort of scary at the same time in that way.
I think it works to the tone. That scene, I think, works.
And we love Cybermen. Cybermen are like the boys. They're great. But the thing with that is trying to do Cybermen and this parallel universe idea, which are like two really cool concepts. And then the way they come together is like, for me, I'm like, it's a bit of a shame that it becomes a bit of like a 90s action movie as opposed to some like cool like British sci-fi.
And to add to that as well, I think the reason why people didn't respond too well to the reimagining of the Cybermen is because in a way it's more of a throwback to that 80s Cybermen, but Cybermen over time, what I hear about in the classic community, and I definitely see it as well, because we watched like some of the really early First Doctor Cybermen episodes, and you know, and the Cybermen were made as sort of more they oh sorry, my phone that's so embarrassing. Should have turned my phone off, naughty me.
Just David Tennant phoning.
Because what I was going to say though is that like the Cybermen did become sort of like more like the Daleks in terms of these clunky things that go around killing people, and I think there was that loss of that. The old Cybermen, you can see their skin and that kind of them being these contorted humans and them choosing to go that direction and thinking that was superior is like a really cool part of the classic Cybermen kind of identity, which I think was lost in the Russell T era and going forward into New Who overall as well.
I think part of the reasoning for that redesign would have probably been the fact that they didn't want it to be too scary. Because it was on, you know, like because kids were watching.
You say that though, but then you've got like Weeping Angels, which is like pretty scary, and like you do have, and it does still tackle like those mature themes.
I mean,
but
okay, maybe scary is not the right word. Maybe gory is a better word, because like, you know, showing body parts can be quite like grotesque or disturbing.
I think they got it when Moffat reintroduced the Cybermen with Peter Capaldi. I think they found that a little bit more again.
Yeah. But then they kind of, I don't know. I think I love that two-parter, the Capaldi two-parter, but it really falls apart in the last sort of, you know, 10-20 minutes of the final part of the Doctor Falls. That's when it starts to go.
It's a little bit of a shame that by the end they kind of revert back to being clunky death machines as opposed to playing further with that human transitioning into mechanical and the removal of emotions as like really interesting narrative themes.
Yeah, because I mean they made Bill a Cyberman, and then
that was really cool. Like
that was cool, and then there could have been a bit more to that, but there wasn't, and that's okay. It was still cool.
Yeah.
You know, I think that the Cybermen, you know, they need a little bit more of a. They need to be pushed a bit harder in terms of what they are and what they mean. And I think in the original sort of classic Who, they were really about like what it means to be human and like this idea of like making yourself better, and they deliberately like self-mutilated for this. And then like the new Who's kind of Cybermen is, I think Neil Gaiman's the only one who got it really right.
No, I agree. I think part of the problem as well is that we only have like one story that really focuses on them as the main antagonist. For a lot of their subsequent appearances in Modern Who, they're always sort of overshadowed by another villain. Be it either the Master or the Daleks. In Doomsday. For sure. So I think they just need a story of their own to really show off how good they can be. I mean, apparently we're getting that in Series 12 because I've just seen some set pictures.
Have there been Cybermen set pictures? We haven't seen them. I haven't seen them.
They've literally like just come out a couple of hours ago.
Oh wow! Can you send them in chat?
Yeah. I'll do it now. I tweeted about it, so I'll find my tweet, dig it up. No.
Do they look cool?
Send it to. Well, you can't really see a lot. To be honest, you can only really see the back.
just that.
But like Doctor Who fans, they all get really excited whenever they see any tiny little detail.
Because
I'm not really excited, to be fair, but like I report on this stuff because it gets me views. So it's kind of where is it? Yeah. I'll copy the image and then I'll paste it in chat.
Because I kind of didn't mind how Chibnall reimagined the Daleks. I thought that was I think he did actually manage to breathe a bit more new life into them in a way that Moffat wasn't able to.
Yeah, I agree. One credit I will have to give him is that they actually make the Daleks kill things. They actually make the Dalek kill.
I can see that. That's interesting.
You can barely really see that. They look like the Cybus ones from the back.
Yeah,
they look like the RTD ones from the back, but obviously we won't have a full picture until a trailer, probably.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I've sort of had a theory that they were going to come back, for Series 12, because after the Daleks, the natural step after that is to do the Cybermen. And then you work your way through every villain after that.
That's what Russell did.
Yeah.
I mean, I really want them to bring in some more obscure old villains like the Yetis.
I mean, I heard they're bringing back the Draconians, who are in an old John Pertwee story.
Are they the lizard things?
Yeah. They were in an old John Pertwee story. I haven't seen it. John Pertwee's one of those eras that I'm not really that fond of personally.
Oh. That's funny because Sam's favorite classic Doctor is Pertwee.
Yeah, he is.
Oh no, his Doctor is great, but I'm just not a fan of the whole unit setup thing. I much prefer maybe the Base Under Siege in Patrick Troughton's era, or maybe the more space adventures with the Fourth Doctor.
One of the things
watch the Ambassadors of Death. Watch the Ambassadors of Death with John. That's a really good John Pertwee story. That's it's really plot heavy, but it's really good. It sort of works as this 60s space detective kind of thing, and it's just really good.
Yeah, I've got a huge back catalogue of classic Who DVDs that I've been given, and I just haven't watched all of them yet.
Me and Sam have a bunch of classic Who DVDs. And we've got the Blu-ray releases, box set releases they've been doing. We've got a couple of those as well.
Yeah. I got one of those. I got the season 10 one off of Fan, which was really cool.
Oh, that's so decent.
I know, I was I kind of feel... That's the thing, though. You kind of feel guilty accepted it. Do I really deserve it? But
yeah. We haven't gotten any gifts off fans. We've gotten pictures. We've gotten art.
How did that happen? Did they message me? Can I send?
He really wanted to send me something, so I gave him my address just like once. You know, I haven't done it to anyone else yet. I'll probably open up a PO box because a lot of people seem to want to send me stuff, which is, you know, really nice.
But that's decent, dude. Yeah.
You should accept it.
Yeah, accept it. Accept all three things that come your way.
Yeah. I'm really thankful. It's just kind of one of those things where, like, you know, don't spend your money on me if you got more pressing things to worry about, you know.
I think when me and Sam like started out, it was a weird space to try and like determine what's the right way of like interacting with your fan base and like what's the way of being like personal with them but not overly, and like finding the right balance of like interaction is it's a weird space like YouTube like that.
Because then what do you do if one of your fans becomes another YouTuber?
Yeah.
What's that relationship?
Bitch about them.
Yeah.
Bitch about them.
Bitch about expose them.
Make drama videos.
Try and eradicate all competition, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, I just sort of like, I don't know. I just kind of ask other YouTubers to come on, and they just kind of pity me and say yes.
No, we just love Doctor Who. So.
Yeah, for us, it's just like it's like we just like doing it. We will do anything if it sounds fun. So.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean,
so yeah, that's sort of how the channel came about.
And it's worth noting that like me and Sam have known each other we've known each other for about 10 years now. We've known each other since we were like kids. So we've always spoken to each other and shared like any projects we've done together.
We
that's really cool.
We used to watch all the Batman movies and like rank them and just do other like nerd stuff before we even had channel.
Yeah, we used to like watch. It was almost like we'd play like hypothetical if you were a YouTuber, and we'd do like all the process of making a YouTube video without actually writing anything.
Yeah, but yeah, it was training.
It was training, pure training.
That's fair enough. Like for me, I think like I never plan. I always, you know, it was always an idea I had in my head to do YouTube, but it was never one of those things where I felt like I wanted to take the plunge until Series 11 came out, and I was like, I need to talk about this.
This is one of the things that I really liked about the Season 11 happening, is it's like it seems to have really infused like or like helped inform a really like interesting, fun like little YouTube Doctor Who community that's existing now.
Yeah.
Because I remember when we were doing the Jodie Whittaker video, just like because I was into Doctor Who so much, I ended up watching like loads of really like fun little Doctor Who channels, and it is just guys like in their room like talking about Doctor Who really like unscriptedly, but I think that's really right for what Doctor Who is.
Yeah, it made us want to start a Doctor Who channel.
It did, yeah.
I think like if you're gonna do a scripted video, you've got to make it sound as if it's unscripted. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of got, I think the best videos that I like feel natural, just even if they are scripted, they feel like someone's actual thought process rather than something that's gone through like a dozen different rewrites and they're just reading off a script. You know what I mean?
I think everyone has their own different like kind of practice, because YouTube is so just like huge. You can do whatever you want with it. You can do fiction, you can do documentary, you can do like colloquial, you can do formal, you can do any style you want to do. And I think in the Doctor Who community, so much of it is just like guys talking about their personal favorites, and there's a level of, you know, it being like a friend, so you want to keep that kind of casual, like kind of, because a highly scripted formal thing about Doctor Who, it seems a bit wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. Although our videos are quite scripted.
Yeah. No, your videos come across as natural despite being scripted, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I think you kind of have that same quality that Harry's Moving Castle does, where it kind of feels like you're just talking about your opinions despite actually having a tight script.
Yeah, I think for us it's funny because the videos are the accumulation of like both our thought processes. I think we don't feel like the channel is necessarily like a personal representation of us as individuals, but more of like
we've had to compromise amongst each other on what we both want to say
and what the voice of the channel is as well. So
I think in a way that kind of makes it easier because you've got another person to bounce ideas off of and bounce thoughts on.
Yeah, it makes it more fun. I think we have a lot more fun doing it that way. I don't think we'd have a lot of fun just being on our own writing scripts out.
I think the worst thing for me is like the editing. I just hate editing with the passion. Like, it's just really boring and tedious. And they need to find a way of making it easier.
By challenging yourself.
Mm.
Because if it feels like you're just editing the same thing that you normally edit, like, it will become boring. But if you're like oh, this sequence, I want it to feel like this, and then you challenge yourself. Depends on deadlines, obviously, but I mean, I think that the secret to sort of enjoying editing is the videos I've enjoyed the most are ones where I've like tried to throw in like challenges to do. Like, in the Doctor Who long video we did, there's like, and even in that first Doctor Who video we made, I did a lot of like gags and like meme kind of.
I think
edit.
that kind of keeps it like keeps the flow, if you like. Because if it was just you talking about your opinions for the most recent Doctor Who one was over an hour, that could get maybe boring and tedious. But the fact that you inject your own little bits of humor, I think, is what endears your videos to people.
Sam does all the editing, because I can't edit, but he's I know, but it's amazing actually, like watching him work. Sam's just so good at like allowing himself to get into a headspace, but even though he works really productively and at a really quick length, he's always striving to kind of see what more he can add into it. One of the things that Sam always does as an editor is that like always gets me off in a big way, is that he always looks to edit to like the beat and find rhythm in his edits, which I think is one of the things that I really love about our videos that Sam like brings to the table, which is so good.
They do certainly have a rhythm to them. And I sort of grab inspiration from all sorts of different people, and I always used to like wonder how they did certain effects and stuff on these YouTube channels, and I'm just now learning about how to do them. So it is kind of a learning experience as well, doing YouTube as a platform. I think the worst thing is when you spend so long on a project and then it gets like copyright claimed and no one can see it. That's the most disheartening thing about YouTube, I think.
Yeah. I mean, with copyright claims, the way I generally get around that is because mostly we haven't had any problems with that, and when we have, it's been with music.
Yeah,
is that the algorithm it can only detect when you're stealing footage by the cuts, if that makes sense. So if you take a movie and it cuts from Dumbo as a baby to Colin Farrell looking at the baby, then it cuts to his sister smiling, then it cuts back to Dumbo. If you jumble those cuts up so that you have Colin Farrell looking, then you change that in the editing process. You can get away with copyright. Usually you get avoided. So as long as you're dictating the cuts and not the material editing is dictating the cuts, you should be able to get around that.
Okay, I did wonder, because you do use a lot of footage from what you're talking about. Obviously, the Doctor Who video, the most recent one, is a great example. You kind of used like footage from all different episodes of Doctor Who and smashed them together. I remember one specific example of me getting copyright claimed was I used that footage of a Dalek climbing up the stairs for the first time in Remembrance, and it got copyright claimed. But what was funny is that it was from a different video.
Oh right, yeah.
So like, why not copyright that video? I'm just using it in a video.
The BBC are quite weird with what they claim and what they don't claim as well. Like, we did the review of Downsizing, and there's a bit in there where we talk about how it ends like a trapped animal. And I used a clip of an Attenborough show of a deer, and they within a couple of hours after it was released, it got like copyright claimed, and they wanted to take all the income of the video.
Yeah, that's the thing as well. Like they get to keep all the revenue despite you only using like 3 minutes or like. So
I just emailed them and I just said this isn't fair, and then they got rid of it. So
yeah, we just contacted them directly.
The thing is, I've got to learn about this stuff as well, because I only just got monetized yesterday.
Oh, well done.
Oh, congratulations,
Thank
dude.
you.
That's such a good step.
But
That's amazing.
It was one of those things where I was like, oh my god, I'm monetized. And then I saw all the videos that couldn't be monetized. And I was like, damn it. I should be more careful about my copyright. But like this, I did a recent one on who the rumoured 14th Doctor's going to be.
And it
got copyrighted because I used, the Clara Oswald music.
Yeah.
I used that to cover up some background noise, because obviously to try and keep it flowing. But like I was talking over it, so you could barely hear it anyway. But they copyrighted it, and now I can't monetize it, which sucks.
So according to your sources, the 14th Doctor has been.
Yes. Yeah.
Is that? Do you think that's true then?
I'd like to think so. Obviously, I say in every video that I cover rumors, like, this is just, speculation at this point. We don't know for certain what's happening. I just report the latest stuff and, see what happens. And I make sure I say in every video, this could happen, this might not happen, I try and make sure that they know that I'm not touting this as true.
That's fact, yeah.
Yeah. But apparently it's a guy.
Yeah. Which I suppose makes sense. I think.
See, me and Sam, I think that's a bad move.
Yeah, I do.
Because I'm like, if you make the woman a doctor, I think for it to go beyond being just like a blip or a weird misstep, like you need to stick to her being a woman for like at least 3 regenerations. I would have liked to have seen like a female doctor.
Yeah.
It feels a bit like of a reversion because. I think there's more interesting directions you can take a female doctor in at the moment. Yeah.
No, I understand that completely. I think they'll probably have to come back to the idea when they've got better writers on board, like, to actually make it work. And the unfortunate thing about Series 11, and likely Series 12 as a whole, is it's probably just going to be remembered as that one with the woman in it. Like, realistically. It's kind of the same deal as what happened with the Ghostbusters. It's like that's the female Ghostbusters,
and that's a shame. And that's a shame, really. I think people will be able to frame Whittaker as being something separate from Doctor Who lore a little bit if you have a male Doctor take her role again after her run.
And Chibnall will be gone with the 14th Doctor, right?
Yeah, Chibnall. Yeah. All the rumours seem to point to the fact that Chibnall's leaving in 2020. So after Series 12 airs, that's it, and then we get someone.
Who do you think is going to take over?
I've heard all sorts of names thrown about. Toby Whithouse was one. Neil Cross was one. Neil Gaiman was one. There's been all sorts of different names thrown about. I personally think Toby Whithouse would do a good job.
Yeah, he would.
Toby Whithouse is being. What did he do?
He's written a bunch of really good episodes.
Because he wrote Under the Lake, I think, didn't he?
Oh,
that Capaldi episode.
The one where he talks about Mozart.
Yeah. Like one of the few good episodes in Series 9.
Yeah. That was really good.
Yeah. And he's written a bunch of episodes, and I think he's run a show before.
Yeah, I think so. Most of them have, to be fair.
But I mean, I personally think Neil Gaiman.
Yeah, you say that, but then I'm like, I was gonna say that, but then after seeing what he's done with like Good Omens, it's put me off a bit.
Yeah, but I feel like he's got a really good track record, and he's been show running like these big budget American shows. I think he's better like prepped for it.
Yeah, I mean, his name was one of the ones being thrown about. The thing that adds a bit of more credence to the rumours is the fact that no one from the BBC has said this isn't happening, except that Radio Times article, which doesn't really say anything concrete. It basically just says, we have a source that says it's nonsense, but we have a source that says it's true. So you didn't really say anything that we didn't say, you know what I mean? They didn't have any more legitimacy to it.
And who do you think is going to be the Doctor?
Well, kind of right now the two names being thrown about. Obviously, James Murray was the one that was most recently rumoured, which I made a video about, and the other one was Michael Sheen, who's actually been in Good Omens recently as well. So a lot of Good Omens connections, which is interesting.
I could see Sheen.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to want Sheen.
I could see him.
Which one's Sheen?
He's the good angel.
Oh yeah, he'd be a bit of a McCoy throwback, I think, if they brought him on.
Yeah,
I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I would prefer a woman.
Yeah,
that's fair enough. Like,
me and Sam, whilst we were writing the Doctor Who video, we came up with like an entire pitch for a Doctor Who run that we want to do, and like had a whole bunch of ideas of what we'd want to do if we were show running Doctor Who. So we've got like a really like specific idea as to like what we would have loved to have seen with a female Doctor.
Yeah,
I think part of the problem with 13 is that they don't embrace the gender change at all.
No,
it's like nothing ever happened. It's like, well, at least with Missy, even though she's personally in my head a different character to the Master, I do admire the development that she goes through, and at least the fact that she did in fact have a character. You know,
part of me thinks that's what a regeneration should be, though, is that actually the Time Lord regenerating should become an entirely different character.
Yeah,
I think they should become different, but I think there should be an underlying sense of who they were before. Like, you can hear echoes of who they were before, if you know.
And I think that was, but I think who Missy was before was a huge pivotal point to her character, and it was her actions that she'd done in the past, and her coming to terms with that and dealing with that as she is now was basically what her arc was about.
But I think personally that Missy showed the right way to do it, a female Doctor. Like, if you were going to do it, you know, at least embrace the fact that she is now, you know, a woman, and I think that's something you said in your video as well.
Yeah, the Doctor's now acquired her femininity. It's a new tool for her to use.
Yeah.
I mean, perhaps she could be more passive or something like that, you know. It's just anything.
I think when the new season came out, we were all sort of excited to maybe just see what the pitch was with a female Doctor. There were a lot of people that weren't happy about it, but they were like excited. They were curious to see, you know, where they were going to go with it.
I think from where I was sitting, as I was willing to give it a chance. Obviously, thing is, my interest in Doctor Who was kind of waning anyway, because obviously Series 9 I almost completely tuned out. I did not care for Series 9 whatsoever. Series 10 saw an improvement, but it wasn't really enough to bring back my interest completely. And then I thought, so we'll give this new this new series a try, and it's just worse, in my opinion. You know, it's worse than Series 9, which is when I almost completely turned off. So
yeah, I stopped watching Season 9 after the first episode. But then it did get better after the first episode. It wasn't as bad as that first episode. And then Season 10, I've just loved. I think it's one of my favourite seasons ever.
Capaldi's second season.
His last season.
Oh, is his last season? Yeah, Yeah, it's weird actually. Season 9 is a really oddly paced season, filled with two-parters, and it opens on such a weak one.
Yeah.
And Capaldi is quite jarring to begin with as well, I think. And once you kind of run with it and embrace what he's doing with the character in that season, you can start to see like some really nice gems amidst like what is like a weird season. But then the last season is really good. The last 3 parts of Capaldi's run feel really, the last 3 episodes before the Christmas special feel really strong.
But I feel like most of Series 10 was pretty middle of the road. Like, other than obviously, as you said, the last sort of few episodes, there wasn't anything that really made me go, damn.
I really like Bill, and I really like Capaldi, and like,
I think Bill was done a disservice by the fact that she didn't get a second series.
Yeah,
I think she could have done with a second series.
How cool would it be with Capaldi's Doctor traveling with a Cyberman Bill? I would have loved to have seen that.
That would have been
something. So it would have definitely been something unique. For
sure.
Yeah,
imagine if they kept Bill on for Jodie Whittaker.
I also think Nardal's a really like often like underrated like Doctor Who companion.
Yeah, he's great.
I slightly disagree with you two then though, because I really don't like Nardal, which is funny because I really like Matt Lucas in a lot of stuff that he does, but I'm just not. I'm not a fan of that character. To me, he literally just served a purpose as the comic relief, and that was basically it. And I think they could have done a lot more with him being like a cyborg, which they didn't really touch upon other than like the odd joke. Like when they were a ship.
I feel like he fills a similar role to like Mickey from Eccleston's run. He's like the techie guy, and I think he has his moments. Yeah, he does. He does come through.
I'm sort of glad there wasn't like that much emphasis on him, and he was just sort of there. And like I think that he's given quite a lot of like space. Like doesn't like overrun the season, but the bits where he is there are like nice, and I don't really have an issue with them. They do make me laugh.
He makes a good companion to Capaldi, who's so stern and serious, and the fact that Nardole as a character is the only person who he's like one of the few companions who really kind of disregards the Doctor's status in any way, and like treats him like with he kind of treats him with the triviality of like a housewife, which I think is like a really funny way for a companion to interact with the Doctor, and not something that like any of the companions in New Who I think do other than Nardole. Well, I guess like Rose's mum did it, but she wasn't really a mainstay companion in the way that Nardole was, and she also wasn't a bald cyborg played by Matt Lucas, which is like a plus in my book.
I still think I would have personally preferred it if it was just the 12th Doctor and Bill, because like he just seemed to stick out like a sore thumb to me. I can't quite put my finger on it. If you look back at the old promo art, I think it's really clear that he doesn't seem to fit somehow to me, and it could entirely just be a me thing, but I can remember, I think it might have been the Who Addicts, obviously not the Who Addicts anymore, but when they were the Who Addicts, they said how he stuck out in comparison to the other two, and you could highlight that as a positive, but I don't know.
I think that's what I would do, because I think that's one of the things that makes Doctor Who special, is that it's able to bring a lot of disparate elements together in a room together. So like Tom Baker, like when he was in, and you got seasons where he's got like a cave woman dressed in like a weird leather leotard with a canine robot in his TARDIS, and to me, I think that's like what kind of Doctor Who's about, is all these weird like mishmashy things of like sci-fi and historical and kind of old and new and just weird things, postmodern like film references and stuff. Bringing all those things together. I think Doctor Who's conducive to making those things be cohesive, and I think Matt Lucas works in.
Yeah, he's got.
For me,
have a character who's sort of like reminding the Doctor of his mission, and he's not allowed to leave this thing. And I'm like, why not Matt Lucas? He was quite good in the River Song episode where he was introduced. So I'm just kind of like, why not?
The more weird aliens
he has his fans,
the better.
For sure.
Because we want in our vision of the Doctor, we want her to have an Ood as a companion.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We'd love the Doctor to have a little like Ood companion.
I think that certainly would be interesting, and certainly a cool idea.
Green Ood.
I think anything is better than like the 21st century modern Earth 20-something female. Like that gets really boring after a while. And even series 11, even though it did have more companions, they were all from the same place. Ryan and Yaz were around the same age. Obviously, Graham was older, but like besides that, there wasn't much of a difference from what we normally get in terms of a companion setup.
For sure.
Well, I think that like, I think what really happened was Russell when he went on to the show, he had a really clear vision of how he wanted to reintroduce this old show and make it modern, and he had this really clear, and everything was scrutinized why everything was the way it was, and then as it carried on, he just kept doing the same thing, and then Moffat came in and he just like sort of he changed it, but the core thing that Russell brought in, the 45-minute length episodes, the kind of tone of Doctor Who, and what the companion was supposed to be and what the Doctor was supposed to be, they were all like quite new reinventions. And then when Chibnall comes in, he's just got what he's been watching and working on for the last couple of years, and he doesn't feel the need to scrutinize the different components that make up the show. Because the companions, he didn't really understand why
companions were important, why they were necessary, and what like sort of narrative tool the companions created. So then when he wrote it, he just knew he had to have companions. He didn't know why.
I mean, in Series 11, they basically just feel like they're there for the ride.
Yeah,
and, like, that's about it.
I think one of the biggest things that the previous showrunners did that I think Chibnall didn't necessarily do is that I think it's really clear that Russell T and Moffat both gave deep consideration in terms of what Doctor Who meant to people there and then, and what it needed to be, and what like TV means to people now as well. Because like when Russ T comes in, he had an awareness of like what the Doctor Who fan base like appreciated and wanted about Doctor Who. He clearly was aware of like all the extra media that had come about. I mean, like he was clearly into it. So by the time that he comes to make Doctor Who, he's taking the best bits from like mainstream TV that are resonating with people in modern TV, and then he's taking the bits that the Doctor Who fan base really likes and appreciates, and then brings those things together to make you that first Eccleston season. And I think similarly, Moffat like looked at what Russ T had been doing and the way it'd been moving, and I think you know, when you're looking at Russ T's run, then in retrospect, now that's the fan base you're then looking at the Doctor Who fan base, and then I think Moffat then turned his eyes to like premium TV, like high budget, like Sopranos and like high end television, and was like and cinema, and decided he wanted to imbue his Doctor Who with like things like that as well, to propel it forward. And I think so you have that sense of like showrunners building on things that have come before, whilst also drawing on other things that are popular in order to make a new kind of feeling show, which also feels familiar. And I think what it feels like Chibnall did is instead of doing that, it seems like he'd sort of disregarded where Doctor Who was there and then, and when this is what I like about Doctor Who. And basically like brought it. Well, actually, to me, it felt like it was more of a calculated decision than a passionate decision.
Anyone who doesn't like it is a sexist bigot. That's how I imagine Chibnall's thought process. Obviously, I know.
I think for Chibnall, I think for him, I think he just misread like what people were interested in, and I think he looked for thematic guidance in terms of what was in the public eye, as opposed to structuring guidance, and what he let determine how he decided to structure the new season of Doctor Who was like looking back at classic serials and deciding to make each episode feel like completely unique, like its own serial, is slightly regressive in the face of modern TV, because like old TV was structured in a very different way. And in those times there wasn't that sense of having like long running narratives in the same way. But by the time we're at Moffat, that's where we're at. And I think it's a regression to take Doctor Who back to a day where it's back to episodic and it's losing that kind of continual narrative, if that makes sense.
No, I completely understand. It feels like Series 11 feels like a Clip Notes version of Doctor Who. Like, you kind of understand what it's supposed to be, but you don't really get any of the heart or any of what makes it unique. You kind of just get everything at its face value and nothing really that much deeper.
I think the way I see it is that I think what you've got is I think Chibnall seemed to remove some of the import, like the importance that Doctor Who had away from it, and then brought it into being, it's going to be like an episodic TV show, which is going to have like one episode, and the goal will be to like entertain a person for that episode, without looking to create a bigger narrative or sort of dive into any kind of personal themes for the characters. It's more kind of like a bit Dora the Explorer, you know, like, this is the subject that we're going to learn about today, and we're going to kind of dive into that in this like kooky sci-fi setting, which is very
feel like a CBBS sort of
well,
it felt very educational.
Yeah, it felt very Old Who.
The thing is with Old Who is that like it taught you something, but the beauty of it was you didn't know you were being taught something, because you were
in the very early days. I mean, it sort of abandons it pretty quickly. By John Pertwee, it's like far less educational.
But even in like so take like, I don't know, let's take the 10th Planet for example. It teaches you about the dangers of technology if it's used in the wrong hands, but it doesn't say, look kids, look how wrong that is. Let's not use tech too much, okay? Or otherwise we're all going to end up like that. You know, they don't like stare at the camera and tell you that. Whereas I feel like in Series 11, what they were teaching you, or what they were trying to teach you, was a lot more blatant. Kind of like being in school, and no one likes being in school.
What I quite like to see is a YouTube community of people that do like, and that can explain why it's good.
No, I certainly understand that.
Interesting. I would really like to see, you know, some actual like thought put into what, you know, because you do get people that do like it. I mean, they're in the minority, but there are people that do like it.
And power to those people, honestly.
I would quite like to understand what is so engaging about it, because to me it's like really obviously not as good.
No, but it's clear. No, I agree. It seems obvious that it doesn't seem to have a very like committed fan base in terms of being committed to the content that it's produced.
Yeah, you just get a bunch of like Guardian articles being like, I never watched it and now I do.
It's great. Which is very like elusive. It's not very substantive in terms of like actual people who are enjoying the show.
Yeah.
Because going back to your point about like it feeling like it's at school, I think that is sort of what the problem seems to be at hand in some of the more kind of heavy like kind of messaging of some of the more like intense episodes but I think the problem is less about like what they're talking about, because I think it's fine for Doctor Who to sort of talk about the wrongs of racism and to try and look into that time period. I think Doctor Who's like a pretty good avenue to do that in.
I definitely agree. I think it's good to tackle those things, but I think the beauty of what they did in like classic Who
I think it's more about like letting the story explore those themes as opposed to using like using the story to explain those ideas. As opposed to using the avenue of the story to have moments where you can explain the ideas, let the story just kind of portray those ideas.
I completely agree with that. Like, I feel like you should come up with the story first and the message later. Whereas I think what most of the thing in Series 11 was, okay, what's our message for this week, and then let's make a story around that. Not saying that's how it happened, but that's how it feels. That's how it comes across to me, anyway. Like, you take, for example, let's take the Witchfinders, for example. Like, the story of that is pretty bare bones. Obviously, there's a tree that got cut down, and then aliens come out of it. That's basically it. But it was all centered around the idea that, obviously, women got it hard in the, 16th century. But like the thing is about the 16th century is that everyone got it hard. Because
but I mean, men weren't burnt.
There were male witches though.
But it was weird though, because the whole point of it is the Doctor's now a woman, and the Doctor's now obviously in an era where people are accusing other people of witches. So the Doctor, for the first time in their life, now has to be cautious when they're in these historical areas. But that concept is really interesting, but it didn't really go into that with any kind of sincerity, because they don't want the Doctor to talk about being a woman more than just a throwaway line here and there. They don't want to actually explore it as a genuine theme.
And when they do explore it in that episode in particular, it's just through dialogue that spells out what you're supposed to get from it. It was very hard for women in the 16th century. We're not being hung. We're being patronised to death, or whatever the line was.
Even if the Doctor is going to be accused of a witch and tied to a tree, she's just going to mention she took lessons from Houdini and like get out of there straight away.
And
there isn't any tension in it.
Another thing you just jogged my memory to was how flimsy her rules are. Like, I think it was Harry's Moving Castle who said about how she said, "Oh look, we can't interfere," and then like 2 seconds later she's like swimming lengths down the water to try and save this woman.
That's a classic like Doctor Who joke kind of thing. I mean, in The Beast Below, Matt Smith does that. He goes like, "Oh, you can't interfere. You've just got to watch." And then there's a kid crying, and he goes over and talks.
I suppose my thought behind that is that he's still newly regenerated at that point, whereas by the Witchfinders, they're supposed to be like concrete. You know what they stand for, sort of thing.
No, I mean, I think the Doctor does intervene. I think that's the nature of the show. I mean, if it was just the Doctor walking around watching people, the Doctor's always going to interfere.
My rebuttal to that would be, why say don't intervene if you're going to intervene 2 seconds later?
Because it's a joke.
It wasn't funny.
It's not a very because of the way that it was written and directed. It gives off the impression that when she's saying don't interfere, she's being like 100% sincere, as opposed to.
And there's also that bit in the Battle Around Score of Carlos where she's like got explosives in a bag, and she's like, oh yeah, I thought Ryan's like, I thought we're not supposed to use weapons, and she's like, well, you know.
But even in Rosa as well, she sort of like low key sends like that guy off to go and shoot the time traveling guy back into the dinosaur age.
Yeah. So I mean, the Doctor's always going to intervene. I think it was just a joke that backfired. To be honest, I don't think it's.
But that's the thing. I think it feels more like a parody of the Doctor than actually the Doctor. It feels like someone cosplaying the Doctor.
The issue is because Chibnall has done very little to work on the characterization of the Doctor. But when the Doctor's saying these are the roles, that's actually like the closest thing to talking to the companions in a sort of stern way, in an authoritarian way. And I think we all sort of like drift towards that because that's the only time she really does it in the whole season.
I mean, perhaps that's why people connect with her so much, is because they can sort of insert themselves onto her because she's such a blank slate. Like, kind of like Link from The Legend of Zelda, if you like. He's basically a complete blank slate, so people, you know, can sort of see themselves as Link, if you like. It's kind of the same sort of principle, if you like. I think that's probably why people feel personally attacked when you say something bad about the 13th Doctor, because they've sort of mixed their own personality with the Doctor. It's weird, like.
Because I mean, I'll say this, and this is just completely like, you know, my theory, and I could be very wrong, but from what I've seen, it seems like Jodie Whittaker kind of like strong-armed Chibnall into considering her as the Doctor, as opposed to Chibnall thinking that Jodie. Yeah, because if you watch like the behind-the-scenes stuff, Jodie finds out that Chibnall is the showrunner, and then she's just like, "Oh, what about me?" kind of thing.
I always thought Chibnall just chose her because they were mates, sort of thing.
I get that, but then they also do specifically say in interviews that like she like really wanted it and was like kind of going for it from the second he found it, and then considering that like Jodie's a fan of Doctor Who. Like, she says she doesn't really watch any of Who, and she didn't really prepare by what.
That really annoyed me personally. Like,
but she wants the role. So that's either she wants to work with Chibnall again because she thinks Chibnall is a great artist, or because she wants to enhance her career. So straight away, you know, I don't know why she was so keen to play the Doctor.
I don't really. I think there's one main reason, and that's the paycheck. A nice paycheck at the end of the year.
I think that it was a double-edged sword in that way, because then when you see her playing the Doctor, I get the sense that she's a little bit like she's sort of in the deep end, and
it's a bit unclear as to who her character should be.
There's one in the Dalek one. There's a bit where she's approaching the Dalek and she sort of does the sneak.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember, but the sneaking is so over-exaggerated.
It's like a cartoon almost.
Yeah, and she's doing the sneak with her body, but her face is cringing.
Yeah.
Because she seems a little bit like uncomfortable with what she's doing. And like from the rumors about like both of them wanting to leave and stuff, I feel like she thought she could just do the Doctor, but like actually.
Well, she said she's seen a couple of David Tennant episodes, you know, the ones that her friends were in, so she probably thought, I know what the Doctor is.
Yeah, and then a lot of the other actors took it on a bit more like they sort of approached it with a bit more like seriousness, you know.
Matt Smith would probably be one of the best examples. He wasn't a fan, much like Jodie, but he actually went and did the research prior to taking on the role, and that's evident through his performance.
Yeah, Matt Smith is a really like interesting person to portray the Doctor, because I think he actually changed up how actors to come were to perform the Doctor, because Matt Smith, I think, is one of the first actors to really look into fully physicalizing the Doctor, giving him an entire kind of criteria which he could kind of dive into, and like movements and ways of interacting with the screwdriver and his environment, which I think like up until that point hadn't been given the same type of focus, because you got a lot of like Tennant brooding and standing around and like standing still, and he will get flippy and stuff, but it's nowhere near as expressive and detailed as the way Smith will move around a space.
Yeah, I think probably the most like expressive in that way, other than Smith, would probably be Tom Baker. Like, you know, he use his scarf to do stuff and things.
Yeah, even Tom Baker, like, because of the way that because of the way of the restrictions of the time, even Tom Baker like didn't have the same opportunities as like Smith does to kind of like really show off the physicality of the Doctor.
No, I understand that. There is something very distinct about the way Smith Doctor moves, definitely.
Tom Baker like changed the game in terms of his face acting, in terms of making the Doctor an expressive character. I think he really brought that to the table, though.
Filmmaking, well, TV making, sort of changed, because back then in classical, they had a limited amount of film, so they would just say like, this is the way we're shooting it. You walk over here, then you come over here. But now that everything's digital, what they would do is they would say, okay, block the scene, we're going to watch how it's blocked, and then we'll shoot around how it's going to be blocked. And Matt Smith has got so much like body language and way that he physicalizes and moves that they sort of had to, I imagine a lot of the camera's angles is there to sort of show that off. Whereas in classic and in Russell's run, you know, you've got more of a soap opera kind of like traditional way of shooting it, where most of the time you only see the top part of the Doctor's body, and you don't get the hands, and you don't get, because they're not physical in that way.
I mean, John Pertwee was very physical.
As an action man, yeah.
But it was still
go around beating the shit out of aliens.
But most of the time he's sat on a chair, or he's like walking slowly. It's not the same kind of physical.
No, I agree. Yeah, Matt Smith certainly does have a very unique way of moving, particularly when he's like in the TARDIS.
Yeah,
and he's sort of like running from one bit to the next, and like.
Smith TARDIS driving scenes are some of the best, like TARDIS driving scenes. He's one of the most
watching
dynamic
the Doctors
pilots.
drive and interact with their TARDIS. It's part of one of my favorite parts of like watching an episode, is watching them fly the TARDIS. I've always had a fascination with the TARDIS itself. So obviously, watching it being piloted is a really, really interesting thing.
Yeah, and in Moffat's era, the TARDIS, like, you know, came with a manual and everything. Every button had a thing that it did.
Yeah, I think actually Matt Smith was given a manual to the TARDIS and like, learn this.
Yeah, and Matt Smith like loved that, and he knew what all the buttons did, and he learned that. And then when it comes to Jodie in the TARDIS, it's a little bit different.
Yeah, part of it is that all the buttons in Jodie's TARDIS look the same.
Yeah.
There's like the same few levers that pull down. Like the same couple of buttons, like they're just sort of, you can't really see a lot of the buttons because they're on this giant yellow husk, if you like. You can't really make out a lot of what she's actually doing.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like they want to show off the TARDIS as a set in the way that they did with Capaldi's and Smith's era, where the reveals of that inside of the TARDIS were really, really given a lot of time to, and just shooting the TARDIS and showing off that TARDIS was something that they really wanted to. It seemed like it was a bit of a priority in a way that in Whittaker's season it's like less of a focal point for
Perhaps
the show.
Even they knew how ugly it was, because I think it's one of the most ugly TARDIS designs. If not I think it's the most ugly TARDIS design.
Me and Sam love Harry's Moving Castle's explanation of the TARDIS aesthetic in the new season.
It's
He's
a
just like, it's a cave. It just
looks
looks like a cave.
That's so perfectly it. Yeah, it is a cave. Because you see, you know, in the Matt Smith era, like all these different sketches of what the TARDIS could look like, and then when it goes to Whittaker's TARDIS, I don't even think that Chibnall had any input. And I think it was a surprise. They sort of showed it to him as a surprise.
I think he spoke with the designer on what they roughly wanted, but I don't think they were as involved.
The design is cool. I like his work, and I like what he does a lot. I can't remember his name, but I like as well that he gave a sort of a general aesthetic to all of it.
I think part of the problem as well might be the lighting. The lighting in there is way too dark.
Yeah, well, this is one of the things is, did you find that in the Dalek episode, the last episode, the TARDIS seemed to be lit in a better way? Because I swear down when I watched that episode, I was like, wow, the TARDIS is looking much better than it has done in the previous episodes. And I think it's because they added like more blue lighting into the space.
No, I agree. I think it does look a lot brighter.
Yeah.
It actually looks really good when in resolution they've got that bit where it all goes red.
Yeah.
Because obviously the Dalek's talking and it all goes red. That actually looks a lot better than it does.
It's funny because like Resolution was like the last episode and it's okay. It's like, I mean, it's a 5 out of 10 episode, but
it's my personal favorite of the series just because of how ridiculous it is.
Yeah. Ours too. And there is a lot of little things that I liked about it, even though I didn't love it.
Yeah.
But that last episode did like help me see like something come together in terms of an overall vision for what Whittaker's season could be. Because I think by the last episode, I think the companions' sort of roles feel a little bit more like reliable. You kind of get the sense that the TARDIS, everyone in the TARDIS is meant to be like a family, and it's like a TARDIS family, and they're helping like fix each other's houses, and they're kind of hanging out in someone's house before an adventure kicks off. Like stuff like that. I do like that.
I like Yaz being like weird, like personal assistant, like security guard for the Doctor. I don't really like how they pulled it out of nowhere, but I like that it's at least there.
By the time you're in, it feels all right.
Yeah. Because then it's like, oh, okay.
I personally feel like they need to run with the resolution, sort of the way they did it, the way it was scripted and written. Because at least it was bad, but it was entertainingly bad. Whereas,
I don't think. To me, I wouldn't say it was bad. It was just like average. It was as good as it got, and it was average.
But the thing is like, where I think part of the problem is when you have a Doctor that you really don't like. I think that can bring down the episode for you. Like, it's not because she's a woman or anything, because, I know a lot of people accuse me of that, as they do with everyone, whoever criticizes her. But
yeah, I mean, we hate her because she's a woman. Yeah. We're thriving misogynists.
We just hate women.
NitPix, the He-Man Woman Haters Club.
That's right. Come join.
Yeah.
Where do I sign up?
When I first saw Resolution, I remembered differently. I remembered that the Doctor does this like flip thing and then like puts a bomb on the Dalek and it just like explodes in that like one move, and I'm like, that's sick, but that's not actually what happens.
No, she like slides along and sneaks up behind
she
it.
shoves a microwave on it, which in itself is
being this like really like fucking cool like ninja, like can jump about and like plant bombs on things.
A bit of a Pertwee throwback.
Yeah, like saying if Jodie was like a Pertwee throwback,
a bit of an action-ready Doctor.
Yeah.
At least that would have been something different, and it would.
I also think one of the reasons why Resolution plays out better is because like a lot of the sci-fi ideas that they were coming up with as original ideas were very like much less interesting than like the idea of the dark, but then like much less interesting, and then you get to the Dalek, and Daleks have so much like background behind them. There's so much to them.
The Dalek possessing a human was a cool idea. Like that.
Yeah,
that was a really cool idea.
The reason why I think it was successful is because it definitely feels like a Torchwood episode. It just feels like, and that's more of what Chibnall knows. There's a team. There's a excavation dig that goes wrong, and then
there's a sense of kind of isolation because there's no one helping.
It's like a big thing, and it definitely you could rewrite the whole thing with like Captain Jack Yanta, like whatever, and it would work just as well. And I think that's the space that Chibnall is most comfortable in, because obviously he's got a long experience on Torchwood.
I haven't seen a lot. I haven't really seen much Torchwood. I've still got the Series 1 Blu-ray still in its like in its cellophane wrap. I've yet to. I bought it ages ago, and it's just sat there for ages.
Well, you should get on it, man. It's definitely, it will definitely make you excited while there's no poo. watch that.
I think I missed it because obviously when I was younger, parents always said, "Nope, Torchwood, not for you." And I always thought, how bad could it be? It's a Doctor Who thing, right? But then I've seen like clips of it, and I was like, oh, that's what.
It was the sex alien. The alien who goes around having sex. When I was a kid, when I was a kid, that got me really excited. I was like, wow, wow, an alien that kills people by having sex. Wow.
I was sort of like, ugh.
Ugh, sex.
Yeah, my brother's like, oh, Christ.
That's disgusting.
I was like,
why can't we have a quirky, happy, chatty alien?
Yeah. I did love the Sarah Jane Adventures.
Of course you did. I can hear it in your voice.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
You know, you just got that Nikki Sarah Jane Adventure energy to you. No, I'm joking. I used to watch Sarah Jane Adventures a bit.
Yeah, what, there's some Toby Whitehouse Torchwood episodes. So I think that basis you should check out. I mean, you know, it's definitely something you should watch.
Yeah, I will definitely.
That is Class.
Class is not something you should watch.
I watched the first episode and gave up.
Was it really bad?
The first episode was, yeah. The only thing that was good about it was that it had Capaldi in the first episode. Besides that, oh my god, we barely made it through the first episode. I watched it with my brother because my brother used to be big on Doctor Who. He's not so much anymore. He's kind of moved on. But we watched it and we got... I don't think we even made it to the end. He was just like, well, that was shit. And it was like... It was one of those things where I feel like it was Moffat taking too much on. It was like, you know, he was doing Torchwood... Not Torchwood, what am I saying? He was doing Sherlock at one point and he was doing Doctor Who... You know,
but Class isn't Moffat.
I think Moffat came up with the idea for Class.
Yeah, but he didn't work on it.
Didn't he? I thought he did.
No, I don't think so at all. It's not written by him. The most interesting thing about Sarah Jane Adventures, in my opinion, is the episode with Matt Smith in, because it's written by Russell T Davies. And I'm like, that's really cool that Russell T Davies is writing Matt Smith's Doctor.
Yeah, that was a really good episode as well.
And then he's like referencing like Amy and Rory and shit. And I'm like, like Russell knows. He watches it all. And I really like that Russell and Stephen Moffat are like friends now. But that's like I want them to come back together, you know, as a team.
I always imagine like all the showrunners just like, you know, having like dinner together or something. Like I can imagine that being quite cool, especially with
before J&T just on the brink of suicide.
Yeah.
Young Moffat.
Well, with Douglas Adams.
With Douglas Adams. No, I think because you could hypothetically get Chibnall, Moffat, Rusty, and J&T in a room together.
Is J&T still alive?
No, he's dead now, right? He killed himself.
Can you imagine J&T and Chibnall seeing each other again? Chibnall was the one.
Everything it's been through.
I really thought this episode of Doctor Who wasn't.
Chibnall was the one who completely slandered him and slagged him off.
I know. That's right. There's
a moral there. There's a moral there.
Left, like,
Doctor Who, you end up making it.
I'd love J&T to whisper in his ear. Not so easy, is it?
That's what inspired me and Sam to like make an hour-long Doctor Who video. Was when we saw Chibnall talking on BBC about him. And we went, we could one-up him on this.
Yeah, we were just like, well.
One of my favourite lines in that video is lots of 19-year-old white boys are complaining about these new episodes because it's kind of come full circle.
It's so funny because people get really upset about that line, but like
I think it's funny.
We're not actually like saying anything bad about the fact that they're white. We're just like, it's just an added thing to piss off 19-year-old white boys.
Yeah. We like pissing off white boys.
Yeah.
Because I think that's us. It's a self-destructive thing.
Yeah. Because it's like it's the idea of it like loads of pissed off 19-year-old white boys like complaining about dogs.
Because I did find
it has come full circle.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it the beginning of Doctor Who, it's always been like white boys who spend too much time watching a dumb sci-fi show complaining about it. It's like that's the foundation of Doctor Who. That's why it's an institution today.
One thing I'll say is Series 11 actually brought the community so much closer together. Before there was like, I hate Moffat. Moffat is the worst. He's butchered Who.
Now everyone defends Moffat.
Yeah, now everyone's great.
I've read so many comments with people saying, I never thought I'd say this, but I miss Stephen Moff.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people thought he was the worst thing ever, and then Chibnall comes along.
And that's why, we're on this podcast, because of Series 11 has brought us all closer.
Together, yeah.
Can we talk briefly about how we actually first interacted with each other? It was so strange. Basically, I was invited into a group chat, which I believe I'm still on. We
were probably cakes. We're awful at being active on group chats.
You left, I think. But they invited you in.
I don't know, maybe.
I think you did, yeah, but it doesn't matter. They invited you in as well. I think it might have been Bad Wolf, who's one of my friends, Bad Wolf 66. So I think he set up the group because he wanted like a big group.
Was Ace Creeper in there?
Yeah, Ace Creeper. I used to watch Ace Creeper's videos. That's what he was one of the cool, because I love Ace's. Ace pretty much Ace Creeper inspired how we did our Doctor Who videos.
Making me want to do.
Thing is with Ace, I'm pretty much the antithesis to Ace, in the fact that his videos, well, very similar in style to mine in a lot of ways. He's focused on the positivity. And then I'm just the complete opposite with that, with like the most negative.
Well, I think the fact that Doctor Who has been around for so long is what's able to really allow you to break it apart and analyze it and criticize it, because it's very rare that you've got like so much like material based around like one character and one like concept.
I think it's interesting that you said that that Series 11 brought the community together. Because for the longest time, I thought it brought them apart until I actually started doing YouTube and I realized how many fans there were who just felt the same way. And I would argue,
because I wasn't really aware of the Doctor Who community being so present on YouTube until Series 11, and I didn't see so much discourse about it until we got to like Series 11, where
I was a Doctor Who YouTuber like OG. I was watching all the original Doctor Who YouTubers.
Well, yeah, I used to watch Twatty Who and Harry's Moving Castle.
Harry's Moving Castle was the first one I think I probably actively watched. Which is why it was so strange having him on. Like,
did you ever watch Twatty Who?
I don't remember a Twatty Who. I remember Who Addicts. So I used to watch them a lot. 5 Who fans.
Diamond Hager.
Yeah, something.
He made really good. We used to watch his Doctor Who.
Because he's just so like my favorite thing about his reviews is that like he's so self-aware that the fact that he's a huge Doctor Who geek.
You'll have to send them to me.
Yeah.
We'll link them to you. They're special. But yeah, how do you want we met on the podcast? Because I'm interested in that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, but as I said, like basically, they invited you onto the group chat, didn't they? And they were like, I was like, wait, are you the real one? Because I've actually had a lot of experience of people pretending to be people that they're not. There's someone who goes on my live streams and it's called Mr. TARDIS. And what makes that funny is that me and Mr. TARDIS don't really get along. I won't air all that dirty laundry here, but I've made videos on it.
We love. I love Doctor Who YouTube.
Let's have a debate.
Can me and Sam
moderate?
Essentially, when that whole Gareth Roberts thing blew up, I made a joke tweet saying Gareth Roberts for showrunner. And like not an hour later, does Mr. TARDIS come back with the longest response I've ever seen on a tweet. Like, it must have been at like maximum character level.
Oh wow!
And I was just like, "All right, man," and I was like, "Dude, it was a joke. Chill out." Like,
well, we should get.
It just started this war.
You guys defense of Gareth Roberts, and he'll be against.
Yeah. You'll have to defend Gareth Roberts.
But the thing is, like with Gareth Roberts, is like, it's a difficult situation.
Save it for the debate, bro.
Yeah. It was a difficult situation, but I just really made a joke about it. The fact that he responded so quickly makes me think that he's probably got tabs on every other Doctor Who related YouTuber ever.
Oh yeah, he's got an eye on it.
Because he's probably I must remain the number one.
It seems like a misunderstanding. It seems just like a small misunderstanding, I'm sure.
The thing is, I've had run-ins with him before that as well. Obviously, mostly over Series 11. The thing is, like...
Does he like it?
I think he really likes it. But I think he
definitely
really
bring him on. That'd be well interesting.
Yeah.
I would get him on, but he blocked me on Twitter, so...
Oh, he follows us, I think.
We'll reach out to him.
We can reach out.
He might not follow you after this.
Oh, I doubt he'll listen to this.
Yeah, well.
Look, we're Switzerland. We're a neutral party here.
We just want to talk about.
We have no affiliations. We're just just two guys who like Doctor Who and live together.
Well, I used to just be a guy who likes Doctor Who, but like anyone who takes a certain stance, you get vilified by certain people. Like.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was fun to talk Who.
Yeah. So that was how we basically met. We basically met on a random Twitter message, and I was like, "Do you want to come on my podcast?"
Yeah.
And they were like, and you were just like, "Yeah, why not?" And I was like, "Sweet."
That is just us in a nutshell.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah, we're not like very elusive or like hard to get to
we'll probably say yes to anything. There was
that's the thing.
who wanted to make a
I
podcast.
thought you were going to be hard to get because you're like the biggest one I've had on so far.
Whoa.
Obviously, I've had Harry's Moving Castle on, who's the second biggest. And
he should be equally big.
Yeah, he's
Strax made cameos in my videos. Well, made
Ballestrek is like literally like someone who we used to just watch pure entertainment because he is so fucked off all the time. And I'm like, this guy's got so much anger in him towards Doctor.
The thing is he's actually a really nice guy. I think he.
No, I bet. You do hyperbole on video, don't you? It's just like how you make them.
The thing is, I think the contrast between us two as YouTubers is really evident through the video we did together. Because he acts really, really, peed off to stay monotone, and I'm just sat there, sort of sarcastically monotone, going, I never thought a talking goat would appear on my channel or something like that. Because he's got Professor Dinkles, and I was just like, I never thought a talking goat would be on my channel, and that was basically it. It's just like this one note monotone voice against this.
This
really
pissed off man. Pissed off. I love his passion. He's like so passionate about Doctor Who.
I love Ballestrek.
Respect that.
He was,
and he hates his SJWs. He really hates them. He's really.
But I can understand where he's coming from, and I do agree on certain things.
Doctor Who has been raped beyond redemption.
Yeah.
I am so angry that Chris Chibnall would say this.
It's such an emotive language. It's so good. It's so entertaining.
Yeah, but if you look at most of my videos, they're basically just. I think I sort of come across. Someone said it in the live streams when I did live streams. They said you sort of rant politely. That's the best way of describing how I do it. Because when you put me up against the other, I suppose.
Doctor Who, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's no point getting hot and bothered over Doctor Who.
No, I don't really. It's kind of one of those things where. But it was kind of bizarre because I used to watch, Mr. TARDIS reviews. He was never one of my favourites, but he was certainly one I would watch, regularly. I would watch him quite a lot. So for them to be called transphobic by him was a weird experience more than anything else.
Are you transphobic? Are you transphobic?
Of course he is. Don't even don't be rude to him. Of course he's transphobic.
I'm a He-Man woman hater. Of course I am. We've already talked about this.
He's transphobic and proud. Don't take that away from him.
No, I'm not. Because I actually want to get Council of Geeks on here.
Cool. Who's that? Me and Sam are actually very much in our own bubble. We're not very savvy in terms of making what and what's being said really.
Council of Geeks.
we know PewDiePie.
Yeah. Also, I remember you mentioned the Absorbalov guy when you were talking about Love and Monsters.
Yeah.
I'm actually really good friends with him.
Oh, decent shit. Yeah.
Channel Pup. He's actually been on my podcast before, twice actually.
Has he got any more Doctor Who ideas?
He's actually done videos about what he would do with the show and stuff, and some of them are really good, honestly. I'll see if I can get him in touch for you guys, because I think you'd probably like to have a good chinwag with him.
I would like to hire him to write, esque comedy sci-fi.
I'd like to get him to write Keith Lemon sketches.
I want to understand. I want to try and ask him where he came up with Elton. You know, the early YouTuber. That representation.
He's ahead of his time in a lot of ways.
He's really ahead of his time, and that Absorber
the ending to Love and Monsters does have like a really like wry sense of humor to it. It's like
the thing is, he will probably watch this as well, because we've kind of got this running gag where I'm sort of, because like he doesn't do a lot of Doctor Who stuff anymore. He still does it every now and again, but he's more focused on like Spider-Man and Marvel and stuff, which more power to him, because that's where the money seems to be. But he kind of calls me his son, because I'm sort of like what he used to do, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like it's like a really messed up Doctor Who family tree.
Yeah, well,
it was really strange, but it's, he's a really good guy, and he's in Germany at the moment as well. So he's a really nice guy. And I asked him about coming on the podcast, very very much the same way I asked you. I was just like, could you come on, please?
I think that's just the way to do it, isn't it? Really.
Just gotta ask.
I mean, it's worked out for me so far. Like,
don't stop asking.
I've had a lot of Doctor Who YouTubers on.
I mean, I think people who like Doctor Who just like talking about Doctor Who. So it's like it's not really about numbers or anything. It's just about
it, even when I know people don't like, people around me don't like Doctor Who. I'll still talk their ear off about it.
I'm sure they love you for that.
Yeah, they do.
Well, thanks for messaging us, because it was loads of fun.
Yeah,
it's been great having you guys on. Also, I got one bone to pick with you guys. On your Discord server, I'm a pleb.
Oh yeah, you've got to earn your way up, man.
It's the moderator. Yeah. It's all to the mods. Mods of the Discord. Shout out
the divine. Right,
you've got to send little drawings.
Yeah, you got to get involved. The people who run our Discord, they're hard cookies to crack. Really,
I mean, we should be.
We should be plebs on the Discord. Really,
I love you, NitPix Discord. Shout out to all of you.
It's a thriving community.
A thriving community of odd individuals and freaks.
Yeah. Most of us are all freaks, if we're being honest,
That's the beauty of the internet.
Yep. We're just all nerds who just got a little bit too popular.
Yeah.
Not me and Sam. No, we have no friends.
It's kind of a foreign feeling.
Best of luck with your TARDIS debate.
Yeah.
We should think that.
We're set it up. We're gonna set it up.
Yeah, we're gonna message Mr. TARDIS right after this. Yeah.
Yeah. It would be funny if you did, like, it would generally be interesting, because I don't know whether you follow, because obviously you said you don't know much about Doctor Who YouTubers, but one of the guys who doesn't like Series 11, so I guess you could say he's kind of on my side of the argument. El Patron?
No.
Okay, well, he had a debate with Billy Garrett John, who's friends with Mr. TARDIS, and thing is, it wasn't even supposed to be a debate. It was supposed to just be like them just having a chat about Doctor Who, and then Billy Garrett John just started grilling him with all these questions. And it was kind of like a deer in the headlights kind of thing. Whereas like, wow. I swore to that day that I never want to do that with my guests. I kind of just want to let them speak for themselves,
I think it's important. I think it's a good thing in interviewing, and when you got guests on, is just to kind of like always respect what they're trying to say, as opposed to trying to like rebuttal and throw off what they're trying to say. Is just try to understand what their point of view is, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think that's what I try and do with all my guests. Obviously, I think we did it quite well, because we sort of feel similarly about Doctor Who. At least it seems.
Yeah, this was just a circle jerk, really. Yeah. We all just jizzed on a biscuit together in this one.
Aren't we all great? Yeah.
Aren't we all right in our thoughts? I'm so glad I've got someone here who can verify my opinion with me. Ha ha ha! Everyone else is an idiot. Ah!
Yep. basically, you know, I've always welcomed different opinions, and I do want to get some more pro Series 11 people on. Thing is, a lot of them won't talk to me, so it's like, I want to get people who support Series 11 on, but obviously, as long as you're not going to be a dick.
We set out in our video, which is an hour and a half, to just like try and obliterate season 11, and once that was done, we felt like Thanos. We did. Sitting in our garden.
We felt we were like, it was done.
Yeah,
We've done it.
Yeah.
The thing is, right now, the way I like to think about it is that Chibnall is Thanos, and like all the YouTubers who say negative stuff about Series 11 are the Avengers. And we just...
I think the thing is like you can't even like get rid of Doctor Who. Like it is, I think it's always going to be around to some capacity, even if the show's not being made. I think you're still going to get books, and you're still going to get comics, and you're still going to get fan-made media. There's just no way to like kill it at this point. It's too much of an organic thing.
It's too embedded in our like storytelling culture as well.
And the fans are too loyal as well. Like they'll just watch it no matter. Some people will just watch. You know, will love everything about Doctor Who no matter what. Like, you know, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying like it's got that audience that will always be there no matter what. And to be honest,
I mean, I'll watch Doctor Who no matter how much, even if I'm hate.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it's kind of like, you know, when you see a car crash.
Yes.
Like you don't want to look away, but you know it's horrible. It's kind of that sort of relationship I have with it at the moment, where I'm like.
Doctor Who just has a really good quality to it, where it's like really easy to pick apart every single episode. Like you can pick apart every episode because they bring in different writers and directors for all of them, and that's like, and a lot of people are really enthusiastic about Doctor Who. So they're like always brimming with things that you can kind of analyze and pick apart from it, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, and I think if the show wasn't as big and as good as it was, because it's got to be good to get this many. Well, at points it's good, as you said in your video. It's got its sort of peaks and troughs type of thing, but like
being a Doctor Who fan is really just like wading through a lot of mediocrity for like lots of little great moments or great episodes. Doctor Who is, I think the reason people come back for Doctor Who is because every episode is an indication of like limitless potential. Like you never know what you can get anything with a new Doctor Who episode.
Yeah,
it can consist of anything. So it's really easy to kind of always give it a shot or go, okay, I'll give it another chance. I'll give it a go here because it's more of a play box. It's very unrestricted in terms of what it's able to do with narrative.
You can basically do anything with it, really. Like it's not even restricted by mediums either, because it works on audio, obviously. Big Finish.
They just haven't found out how to make a good Doctor Who video game. But once they do that,
I want a good Doctor Who video game. I've wanted to talk about that for a while. I really would like a sort of open world sort of adventure game type of thing.
It'd be really hard to do. It's just like hard to determine what sort of gameplay style you'd actually do with the Doctor or how you'd play it exactly.
Yeah, and I get that, but like
maybe you should have something like No Man's Sky, where you go around like traveling through generated planets.
I think that maybe not generated. Maybe you'd have like maybe 20 or 30 planets from Doctor Who, but like each one would have your own missions, and you can upgrade stuff. And there's like a final boss, which might be like, you know, Dalek Emperor or something. I don't know. I'm not a writer. You're like, and that's the thing as well. I think a lot of people think that they can probably do it better than Chibnall, but realistically,
a lot of people can do it better than Chibnall.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this sense that like writers are like kind of like doing something above and beyond like what average people are capable of. But like if like when you like read like the script of like any like film scripts or TV scripts, like, and you just read the words without any of the dressing up that they're given, they always read like kind of shit. like text messaging, like dialogue just always looks weird and bad on paper. It relies on like actors and setting to like really make it work. But like actually, like in terms of like, I think
it's writing is sort of structure,
yeah,
and sort of like a keen eye on how you're constructing the scenes.
And once you're like good with that, I think you're able to fill that space with like you and your personality. That's what often determines and defines like good writers. Is like how much of themselves they can really put into what they're writing. How
Russell T Davies definitely did that. Like you can see that obviously. Captain Jack is obviously probably a good example of him putting himself into the show without it being so obvious. I feel like Moffat.
I don't mean like literally. I just mean like infusing your character in terms of what you do, because like you can tell a Russell T Davies episode from a Moffat episode, or you can determine you know what's a Russell T era alien compared to a Moffat era alien. And that's because like they each of them have infused their own like personality to it.
I think Moffat did that a little bit too much, honestly. Towards the
maybe not enough. Maybe not enough though. Because I think the problem, like the thing with like the latest season, is that it is kind of dialed back, and it's not very like ambitious in terms of doing really weird, crazy stuff. Because Moffat would always try to do that, and sometimes it would fall flat and be awful. But the times that it works, it's like Moffat definitely has like the best Doctor Who episodes under his belt. He's written the best Doctor Who episodes, even though he's not necessarily had the best Doctor Who runs. His individual episodes, when they work, really do come together in an amazing way because he's ambitious with it.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think like I just mean that some people, I think they probably could do it better than the showrunners. I mean, in terms of like YouTubers, like I think some people think that they could. I'm not one of those people. I don't think I could write something. Well, maybe better than Chip. I don't know, but I don't think
it's
that
less about it's less about what would be better, because I think like if you were making your own Doctor Who, like you're always going to like it if you're making it. What you need to be able to do is make a Doctor Who that you think works and you like, but also like lots of people will like and will make money. Making money off of Doctor Who is like a much harder thing to do, and actually is something that a lot of the showrunners like Moffat and Chris have both had like trouble with like making back like the money it costs to make Doctor Who.
I mean, RTD did it quite well, because I can remember a lot of Doctor Who toys for the RTD era.
Yeah, well, he was around in peak Doctor Who, but it's hard to maintain that momentum like over like 9 series where the Doctor's changing his face and the show's always changing its identity. Like it's hard to keep that going.
I think part of the appeal of Doctor Who as well is people's nostalgia, because I started with David Tennant and I absolutely loved that era. But when I look back on it retrospectively, I'm like, it wasn't as good as I think, I used to think it was. And I think that's part of the problem. Like, I think most fans have this idealized version of what Doctor Who should be, even though that idealized version isn't exactly what actually was there to begin with.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the Doctor it's kind of like Batman. Essentially, like everyone has their own idea as to what the best way of doing Batman is. Everyone has their own vision and idea as to what the best way to do the Doctor is. It'll be impossible to please everyone, right? But I think making the plots larger and having more interesting and crazier ideas at play with Doctor Who is like what is the unique selling point of the show. And I think the best way to kind of go about it in a way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just got your message as well, by the way. So,
sorry, man.
Yeah, that's cool. Just when do you sort of need to scoot?
Like, I mean, we can do like another like 20 minutes probably. Like it's when but like
well, yeah. I mean, it's been an hour and a half, so I mean, it's
it really?
Yeah, we've been at it for a while.
Yeah. That's the thing with Doctor. You just kind of gone off on tangents.
Easy to get caught up for sure.
Easy to get. I was going to ask you something as well. I've completely forgot. I wanted to talk to you about some of your other videos as well, because I'm a fan of a lot of your other videos as well. I really thoroughly enjoyed the Justice League one. That one was absolutely one of my favorites. Obviously, the Doctor Who ones are my personal favorites because I'm a Doctor Who fan, but I'm also a superhero fan, so I do agree that it's one of the biggest clusterfucks of a movie I've ever seen, just because of the fact that it had two like directors and who had two very different visions,
You know, one of the thing that like oftentimes pisses me and Sam off the most when it comes to like film and TV is just like when there's a blatant lack of an artistic vision being celebrated in them. And I like, because like we don't even mind like bad films if the vision's strong enough or ambitious enough, even if it offshoots, we can kind of give it that respect.
Because like Batman and Robin, like, bad movie, but like at least like every single shot, every single set like was built.
I watched Batman and Robin as a kid and I wasn't bored by it, so there's that.
I will say this on record, I've been saying this a lot, but I will always prefer to watch Batman and Robin over Batman Begins. I find it a much more entertaining movie.
I still probably would watch Batman Begins
on a day-to-day basis.
I would certainly watch Batman and Robin over something like Batman versus Superman for definite.
Oh yeah. And I think with Justice League, it's like, I mean, it always becomes more of a. It's always the studios put themselves in a bad place, in an easy place for criticism when they're remaking things or adapting pieces of, especially like hugely celebrated pop culture, because there's a reference base for it. Like we know what the Justice League can be, we know how good it can get when there's plots driven through like passionate artists and stuff like that. So by being aware of that, it becomes so much more transparent how much like the studio was clearly like overbearing and strangulating on the production of Justice League to basically kind of, you know, and really just didn't get the idea of whatever, because even like the thing with who directed Batman Robin, what's his name? Snyder. Zack Snyder with Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
The thing with him is like I didn't really enjoy his films, and I didn't particularly enjoy Batman v Superman. But I think when you watch his early stuff, there's like the workings of interesting thematic ideas at play, which never get like the focus that they need in Justice League to work. In terms of just like this idea of like a brutal, beaten up Batman who's like violent and aggressive, coming into matches with like Superman and stuff. You know, Snyder was looking, I think, to do a bit of a Watchmen thing and deconstruct Batman and Superman as people. I don't think he did it necessarily effectively well, but I think the ideas were there a little bit with Batman v Superman. But by the time you get to Justice League, it's like you can tell that the studio's like, we need funny scenes, we need Batman to be more like this, and the entire artistic vision, it was already kind of strangled in Batman v Superman, is, you know, clearly, but as it goes on, you can see it get guided so much more. Especially it becomes really clear when you see color grading changes, I think, going from like much darker, grittier lighting into like lighter, more colorful lighting.
And I think, like, as well, I think the problem with the DCU as a whole is, like, the thing is, there's no balance. They either go in one extreme or the other, whereas what I think they need to do is find a happy medium. Like, obviously, with Justice League, they tried to make it overly funny and comedic in the style of, like, a Marvel movie. But in Batman vs Superman, they did the polar opposite, where they made everything dark and bleak. And so dark and bleak works for Batman, but it doesn't really work for Superman or the Flash, I
think the issue at play is like audience targeting, because I think like a lot of big blockbuster films now, like back in the day, like older films, like you can, because Marvel's managed to successfully build a franchise that is effectively targeted at everybody. What studios are trying to do is like make films that can be easily targeted to any type of audience base, like everybody, old, young, and stuff like that. But I think the problem with like not knowing and not having a specific audience base at play means that your films can't actually like go off into a very specific direction. So like Batman and Robin is very clearly like targeted at young kids, so everything about it is put there to kind of excite and kind of titillate like young children in the best way that it can. And in that sense it kind of succeeds. When you're like a young kid, you do get kind of excited like watching Batman and Robin and stuff. So the audience base is really clear.
I thought it was perfectly all right,
yeah.
You know, looking back, I can see its flaws.
By the time you get to okay, so this film it's still targeted at children, but it's also targeted middle-aged people who've grown up on the comics. It's also targeted at the parents and all, but they're like, well, we've actually got a committed audience base over at Marvel. There's a committed adult fan base, so let's try and appease to them. And suddenly, like, how can you carve out a film identity that's trying to appeal to everybody at the same time? Like, it becomes really difficult.
That, like, Illumination likes to do. Like,
yeah, and
Disney
overall tries to do this with a lot of its films, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I don't want every superhero movie to be like the MCU. The MCU is great for what it is, but I don't want everything to be, you know, a quippy hero. It's down on his luck until he gets superpowers, and then he's a quippy hero, but he's got a girl or he's got friends, and then he joins a team, and you know what I mean. Like, that would get very stale if they did that same thing over and over.
Yeah.
So I feel like they do need to change it up a little bit. I suppose final question before we wrap this up, because I'm going to have to shoot as well soon. What do you think about well, this goes to, you know, both of you, as every question has. What do you think about the Sony Marvel deal being cut off? The Spider-Man deal, I mean.
I've heard that it might not be cut off, and it's going to be announced tomorrow that they have made a deal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Tom Holland put up a picture of him being like, "Oh, so happy."
Oh.
Yeah. Part of me
so,
thinks
like I just do think that like Sony and Disney are going to be able to make a deal.
I hope.
Part of me wonders whether it's a bit of a publicity stunt.
Yeah, a bit of a publicity stunt, bit of a deal negotiating tactic to release it to the public.
Thing is, like, I feel like Disney were being a bit too greedy, like wanting 50%. Like, I can understand why they would with the work that they put in, but at the same time, Sony needs that money an awful lot more than you do. Like,
I personally think that Spider-Man should be in public domain. He was invented like fucking ages ago, and
like realistically, that's
kind of belongs to all of us. And I just feel like if we're all able to make Spider-Man stories, like, and Spider-Man things, it's not going to like be a detriment to anything. It's not even going to make Disney less money. Like, I just feel like all these copyright arguing about a character that you know Sony bought for $7 million 20 years ago. You know, it's not. He wasn't even valuable 20 years ago, and now he's a big hot ticket. And I mean, you know, Sony doesn't own Spider-Man, but neither does Disney. Like, Spider-Man was invented by Stan Lee. I just think it's all like a bit weird where you've got these big corporations arguing about like a guy who spits webs and like can climb walls and is just like a spider. Like, I mean, it's not even that great of an idea. Like, I just feel like society and like the world is a bit weird when it comes to copyright. And I think like when me and Max make things, I think we would like to keep it public domain. When if we were to make superheroes, we wouldn't want it to be belonged to anyone. Like, let anyone make
I can certainly see that, but I just think like I want the rights to be with whoever's going to make the better movies. And I think like
at the end of the day, like, I mean, like, because Sony already made like the multiverse, the Miles Morales.
Yeah, they've made 3 good Spider-Man movies. Disney has made like 1.
The Spider-Verse one it's really more down to like a different creative team at Sony Animation. Like, the live action division and the animated division are two different kettles of fish. And in terms of obviously the 2 Raimi movies, that was largely down to the fact that they had Raimi on board. And the problem with Sony is that they meddle too much. They don't leave the creators alone. Like, obviously we had it.
Yeah, but you say that, but they did a good job, like, working on on like the Homecoming and Far From Home. That's kind of out
of desperation more than anything else. Like, they had to play ball.
That Disney always attracts like a higher caliber of artists, like, generally speaking, but you can get like some people that work for Sony who are really cool and like, good ideas.
I just think like,
but I'm not a big fan of like the monopoly that Disney's building.
I don't like that.
Healthier for that competition. Competition to stay is healthy.
I'm also just like, you know, it's a strange situation where like you've got like 2 huge companies arguing about like something like so stupid and like giving up so much money. Like, when these are stories that belong to us, they don't belong to Disney. Like, Spider-Man doesn't belong to anyone other than us. We're the people that connect with those stories, and we're the people that make those stories successful and make money, you know, in terms of it speaks to us on a personal level. So
that makes sense. And I think it was just the thing with me was I really like the MCU interpretation. I certainly think it has its flaws. I'm not one of these people who thinks that it's the most beautiful, perfect thing that's ever graced cinema screens. It's certainly got its flaws, but I do really like that interpretation of the character. So the thought of that one sort of ending was a sort of scary prospect, but it was
in my heart of hearts, like it was gonna like give up, because like for them to not have like Spider-Man in the MCU would be a huge detriment to them as well. So like it was like clear that these were like half, like this wasn't even like the completed negotiation with Spider-Man. It was all a bit of a ruse to kind of incite people to respond in a way. And I think like time's gonna tell, but I doubt that Spider-Man will actually like leave the MCU.
I doubt he's going in.
I mean, I certainly hope not, because
I think like if Sony stopped making money as well, like if Sony stopped making money, then Disney's just gonna buy Sony, and then we're gonna just have less things that can compete against Disney.
I think my ideal thing would be for Marvel to buy back the Spider-Man rights, but not the entirety of Sony, because that's just another studio that they monopolized.
Weirdly, it seems like it's easier for them to just buy an entire company as opposed to like buying one asset, because it's like why would Fox give over X-Men for a certain amount of money?
The thing is, like, equally, I want all the Marvel characters under one roof. I don't want this whole thing like that we've had for decades, where like you get these characters and you get these ones. And obviously, I know that was done out of a necessity because of obviously Marvel being bankrupt at the time. But now that they can afford it, I would like all of the characters to be under one umbrella, because that opens the door for more stories. You know, and it's kind of one of those things.
I just hope that we can move past a point where copyright, because I mean, what is it in Japan? They don't even have copyright laws.
China's very
China and in Far Eastern countries. It's just like they've got an entire different artistic philosophy when it comes to like ownership of art and properties, which is just like it doesn't exist.
I just don't believe.
I wish YouTube would take China's philosophy when it comes to copyright.
Yeah,
as long as people are getting paid.
As long
as people are getting paid and people aren't being like fucked over, like I don't really think the copyright laws that we have at the moment are actually like effective for producing good art. I actually think they limit good art,
especially on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of them. So like I just think this whole dispute is I think it's going to be fine. Yeah, I think we're going to be fine.
I certainly understand that point of view. I just like that interpretation, and I want that one to continue. Yeah, I don't really care who makes the movies.
Even if Sony does hold on to Spider-Man, they're going to keep Tom Holland. So like we still see the same interpretation. He just won't be interacting.
The thing is,
with
though, if they kept Tom Holland's Spider-Man but removed him from the MCU, a huge part of that interpretation's characterization would be gone.
Yeah, but I think we'd be okay. Really,
I think we'd survive.
I think we'd be. I think we've got so many superheroes in the MCU. Like not having Spider-Man, like for whatever reason, like where's
that.
Peter? He's dead. Like that's fine, and we can carry on making good movies. Like,
I think I understand that. I think it's just my personal attachment to because it is my favorite one. Obviously, Spider-Man.
Yeah. No, I mean we get. I mean, like,
but I think Spider-Man's gonna. Even though he's staying in the MCU, because it's like
even if he stays in the MCU.
Even if he stays in the MCU, like the last Spider-Man movie, like his character definitely like wasn't as strong, and like with Iron Man being dead now, like that was the key like relationship that Spider-Man had that felt like made him connected to the MCU. I mean, who's he going to be hanging around with? Falcon?
I mean, I just hope that cliffhanger gets followed up on from Far From Home.
Like all these things could be fun, but like I don't need them, so I'm okay.
Yeah,
like I kind of want J. Jonah Jameson to employ Tom Holland's Peter Parker as part of the Daily Bugle.
But that would the Sony movies would do that.
Would they though? Because here's the thing about
they'll continue on.
Sony owns Tom Holland's Spider-Man and they own Jonah Jameson.
They do, but they don't own the Marvel created characters. Like Michelle Jones couldn't be used by Sony because she's not Mary Jane. Sony owns Mary Jane. They don't own Michelle, if that makes sense. That's why, like, in a lot of the MCU Spider-Man movies, like, they sort of mix and mash the characters, so that, because Sony didn't want to give Marvel any stakes in any big Spider-Man characters, i.e. like Harry Osborn or Norman Osborn or like Dr. Octopus, you know. So
I thought it was just Kevin Feige who like was on board, and that was it. Like, but all those movies are still like Sony movies.
They're still released under Sony, but
I would imagine they do still own Zidane. They own her. I think they still have her, right? I don't see why it would. I doubt it would belong to Disney, because
it doesn't belong to Disney either. From what I understand, if like the deal gets broken, then those characters get frozen, so they can't be used by either of them.
Oh well, I mean, I'm sure none of this is.
Yeah, I don't think it will.
But I just wanted to know your thoughts as film connoisseurs. You know, I wanted to know what your gut reaction was to it, because obviously you'd covered, you know, superhero topics on the channel before.
Yeah, because for me, the Guardians of the Galaxy and like 4 are like the strongest parts of the MCU for me personally. Like Spider-Man, I like the kid, you know, he's got potential, but like I haven't like, you know, I now that Iron Man's dead, I'm not even really that bothered.
Ragnarok and Guardians is really what we revisit as individual films the most out of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, I certainly understand that. Those are fantastic movies. I kind of just like the fact that it gives a sort of it kind of gives us perspective into the everyday lives of people living in the MCU. Like I like that aspect that the Spider-Man franchise brings to it, and I think if that was lost, it might be a sad thing if that part was lost.
I agree. Yeah, I mean for sure. But they have a bit of that with Ant-Man as well. They could definitely bring that.
Yeah, I suppose they could probably make that. Yeah.
At least we've still got Black Panther, the best MCU character.
No, but Vision's, I kind of clocked out on MCU.
When Vision died, your favorite character.
Vision was like wasted potential, man. Like,
no, he was just the best. He was done perfectly.
Sam loves the Vision. He's a huge.
Captain Marvel's the best. Let's trigger.
Captain Marvel, Vision, Black Panther.
Sorry, Ballstrike, if you listen to
They
this.
are the MCU.
They kind of are. Black Panther is a huge thing and huge in the MCU.
We'll have to see after Black Panther too.
Yeah, I'm hoping they'll get good. Because it's always the first Marvel movies are a little bit jank, and then the second one's usually better.
Doctor Strange into the multiverse.
Yeah, Doctor Strange into the multiverse.
Really
I've got hopes.
Yeah, I hope they go along with that, because that would be really cool, seeing him in like different universes and stuff. That would be, I'm down with that.
Especially considering his last film was so like boring. Like his first film was so bland.
It was very vanilla.
And that's so dumb when you've got a character like Doctor Strange, who's literally like one of the funkiest like 70s inspired superheroes, and they basically remake Iron Man 1 but with Magic Man. It's like, what are you doing?
Although there was that really cool scene when he goes into like, what is it, like the spirit realm or so, I don't know what it's called. Yeah,
that's as good as it gets though. It never gets better than that.
If Black Panther 2 and Doctor Strange 2 are like really good, then we've got like, you know, and Captain Marvel 2. If all of them are really good, then we're in for a treat, guys. MCU, it hasn't peaked at Endgame. It's carrying on. It's still going to be.
The thing is, though, is a lot of their upcoming movies are exclusive to Disney Plus.
Yeah, I feel like the MCU hype is about to go down. I think Endgame was the absolute peak.
It's gonna the spaghetti western syndrome.
But they achieved it. You know, they achieved it. They made the highest grossing film of all time ever. They beat Titanic.
They did succeed.
You know, so that's it now. Like, it doesn't even matter if they go downhill and lose money, because like they've already made the highest grossing film ever made now.
They've still made enough to like achieve world peace with the amount of like money.
It's definitely a W for Disney.
It's a W for. And then
it's a lot more of a W for Disney than Star Wars was.
Star Wars is going to drop as well. You know.
I think Star Wars already has
hope that
dropped.
The MCU may be reinvigorated by the idea of X-Men and Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
If they do them well, like that would be so good, because I love X-Men, and I just feel like they can make loads of money with these X-Men movies.
And Fantastic Four are really cool as well. If they're done right, they could be really
Deadpool,
cool.
You know, and Deadpool.
Yeah.
I think as long as they keep buying assets.
Buying assets and bringing them in big event ways.
Buy Batman. If they buy Batman, bring him in.
Buy DC. this is what me and Sam always hypothesized is actually like the ultimate way that the MCU has to end. It's just like they buy DC and then you get like Marvel Ultimatum, and then like Marvel versus
it's just like
Avengers v Justice
Ultimatum.
Yeah, Avengers Ultimatum, and it spans the TV shows and the movies, and it's like 4 movies and like 3 seasons of a TV show, and it's all one plot.
And it's a 9-hour movie.
It's a 9-hour movie.
Can you imagine how much money a Marvel versus DC movie would make, though? Like, I don't even want to think about that.
It opens with Deadpool, Daredevil, and Spider-Man walking through the sewers, and they're tracking Batman. And it's 9 hours longer. And carries on.
Like so much, and Iron Man comes back to life.
Yeah, Iron Man 2, the Resurrection. He comes back. He's evil. Him and Wolverine fight.
Yeah, Captain America comes back, but now he's like that weird. He's like the Highlander or whatever. When they do
Planet Hulk in there.
And they do Planet Hulk in there.
Superman uses Mjolnir and Captain America's shield.
Yeah, Thanos comes back as well. It's just huge.
Yeah,
and then it's the end, and it takes him 7 years to make it.
And Wonder Woman and Captain America fuck.
Yeah,
that definitely happens.
That happens.
Yeah,
and Black Wolf is there.
Yeah, Steppenwolf gets brought back. He's great.
I do love Steppenwolf, to be fair.
As the real villain of the piece.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's how we see things. With
and on that note, we do have to go. But that's our vision for Marvel v DC.
Yeah.
Yes. So to sum up, basically, Doctor Who's a mess. You already knew that. Marvel versus DC crossover would be cool. What else did we talk about?
That was it.
You hit it. You getting monetized.
You being transphobic.
Yep.
How to get copyright in editing.
Yeah. That was.
Yeah. And we talked about old Who and stuff.
Yeah. Old Doctor Who.
Ambassadors of Death. Watch Ambassadors.
That's pretty much it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's everything. So
super.
I don't know what the pause was for there. Thank you so much for you both coming on, obviously.
Thank you for having us. It was a pleasure, yeah.
Maybe we could do something on your channel next time,
yeah, maybe, for sure, yeah. We'll be in contact.
We'll do a huge Doctor Who video with all
the Doctor Who channels.
Because I've got contacts with quite a few of them, so
we'll set something up.
We
should set up a big podcast.
We should set up a big Doctor, which is built off of like debating or something. I'd love to do that. I want to like
season 9.
See like Ballastrick like rant at somebody, and I want everyone to get really fucked off. That's what we should do.
The Doctor Who
breakdown.
We'll call it the official Doctor Who breakdown,
and we won't do any Discord shit. We'll get you all down into a studio.
That'll be amazing.
Yeah, it'll be 12 people.
Yeah, 12 people all discussing and arguing, talking over each other.
Yeah,
debating Doctor Who.
That would be
big Doctor Who breakdown.
Yeah,
that would be beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
Oh well, we'll make it happen. We're planning it.
Yeah, it's in the works. All right. Thank you very much. We gotta go.
Thanks very much. Thank you all for watching. Comment, like, and subscribe. Go subscribe to NitPix if you haven't already.
And check out our podcast as well. We're on Spotify and iTunes. Bleeding on the Page. Yeah.
I haven't watched a lot of Bleeding on the Page because I'm not a huge fan of Spotify. Don't crucify me or anything.
We're also on Acast, which is completely free for everyone.
You should just upload Bleeding on the Page to YouTube or something similar.
Yeah, we're working on doing one for YouTube.
Yeah, we're with a production company, so
that's fair enough. I wouldn't know because the only production company that would want to work with me would be like, I don't know. There wouldn't be
probably probably the shit production company. Tharries, the sounds of it.
Okay, everyone. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you
on the other side.
I've actually just started ending my video.
I'm ending it.
It's all finished.